Crimson banners unfurl over shattered walls, a sultan's tent aglow with torchlight. A Byzantine princess, her gown ripped to expose porcelain skin, kneels before Mehmed II, his eyes devouring her curves, fingers tracing her trembling jaw. "You will serve," he murmurs, voice laced with conquest lust, "or watch your bloodline bleed into oblivion." In the dying gasps of empires, where silk and steel entwined in deadly embraces, Ottoman soldiers unleashed cruelties that devoured not just bodies, but dynasties. The fall of Constantinople in 1453 marked the Byzantine Empire's brutal end, a 53-day siege orchestrated by the young Sultan Mehmed II, whose ambition pulsed like forbidden desire. For centuries, the city had stood as Christendom's bulwark, its walls a testament to resilience under emperors like Constantine Abekinth. But Mehmed, at 21, hungered for glory. His armies, janissaries forged from captured youths, encircling the metropolis with cannons that thundered like jealous lovers' roars. The defenders, a ragtag force of Greeks, Venetians, and Genoese, clung to hope amid dwindling supplies, their emperor rallying kin and nobles in shadowed halls where whispers of strategy mingled with stolen glances of despair. The siege wore them down, a slow seduction of starvation and bombardment. Walls cracked under Mehmed's innovative artillery, engineered by turncoat Hungarian urban, breaches teasing the invaders closer each day. Tension mounted in the Byzantine court. Grand Duke Lucas Notaras, the empire's mega-do, plotted defenses with a steely gaze, his family sheltered in opulent chambers that now reeked of fear. Historian George Francis, loyal chronicler, documented the agony, his quill scratching tales of dwindling morale as food rations shrank, bodies weakening under the relentless assault. Mehmed's forces, promised riches and spoils, grew restless, their camps alive with anticipatory fervor, eyes on the city's legendary wealth and its inhabitants' vulnerable forms. Dawn on May 29th shattered the stalemate. Ottoman horns blared, waves of soldiers surging through the Kerkaporta gate, left ajar in betrayal or fate's cruel twist. Chaos erupted, streets became slaughterhouses, blades flashing in the morning light. Common folk fell first, old men eviscerated in doorways, children trampled under hooves. Women, veils torn away, were dragged into alleys, their cries echoing as soldiers claimed them in frenzied violations, bodies pressed against cold stone in power's raw embrace. The air thickened with smoke and screams, the scent of blood mingling with incense from desecrated churches. Hagia Sophia, the jewel of Byzantium, overflowed with refugees, nobles and peasants alike seeking sanctuary. But doors buckled under axes, invaders bursting in to rope the masses, appraising forms with hungry stares. For the royal and noble families, the horror sharpened into personal torment. Emperor Constantine Euanthe perished in the melee, his body unidentified amid the heaps, stripped and mutilated, a symbol of fallen majesty. Notaras, captured with his sons, was hauled before Mehmed in the Sultan's opulent pavilion, silks draping the scene like a lover's canopy. The conqueror, his dark eyes gleaming with triumph, initially feigned mercy, speaking of governance for the subdued city. But Ottoman customs demanded submission. Refusal ignited wrath. Notaras, a devout Orthodox, spurned apostasy. His youngest son, a lithe youth of 14, caught Mehmed's eye, whispers of the seraglio's sensual demands hanging in the air. Notaras begged to die last, witnessing his heir's throat slit, blood spraying across embroidered carpets. His own head followed, severed in a stroke that echoed through history. Ducas, the Byzantine historian, captured the scene in vivid detail, betrayal as calculated policy, eradicating potential rebels while satisfying troops' lusts. George Francis endured a fate woven with intimate agony. Captured amid the rubble, he was enslaved for 15 months, laboring under whips that bit like scorned affections. His wife, once a figure of courtly grace, was bound and auctioned, her form appraised by leering merchants before vanishing into anonymity. Their daughter, Tamar, barely flowering into womanhood at 14, was selected for Mehmed's harem, a gilded cage of silk pillows and shadowed desires, where captive beauties navigated power through whispered seductions and forced intimacies. She languished there, her spirit eroded by unwanted caresses, dying young from disease or despair. Son John, 15 and handsome, refused the Sultan's advances, his defiance met with a blade in rage-fueled privacy. France's own chronicle sears with grief. My fair son was killed for his beauty, a lament that pulses with the erotic cruelty of conquest. Escalation thrummed like a heartbeat in those 3 days of sanctioned plunder. Mehmed, adhering to Islamic warfare traditions of Ghanima, war spoils including human captives, unleashed his men as reward for the grueling siege. What began as indiscriminate killings morphed into organized horrors. Nobles stripped of finery, their bodies paraded and appraised like exotic wares. Critobulus, writing in service to Mehmed, described the frenzy. Young maidens, noble and educated, subjected to utmost brutality, their virtues shattered in public spectacles. Soldiers tugged at captives in tugs of war, limbs bruised, garments clinging provocatively in the mayhem. The gendered brutality, as historian Stephen Runciman detailed in his seminal account, amplified the terror. Women and youths fought over, their forms tools of dominance, evoking dread in survivors who witnessed kin reduced to objects of desire and disposal. Shock rippled through the narrative, confronting the fragility of status. Emperor's kin, once draped in imperial purple, now chained in markets, identities erased under the conqueror's gaze. Orchan, a disguised imperial relative, was unmasked and beheaded, his spiked head a gruesome trophy. Families scattered to slave ships bound for Anatolia, ransom negotiations if fortunate, or the seraglios' sensual hierarchies where alliances formed through submission. The stakes soared beyond lives, legacies polluted, faiths coerced, bloodlines diluted in power's erotic web. Byzantine laws on treason paled against Ottoman edicts, where 3-day sacks formalized the savagery, ensuring loyalty through spectacle and subjugation. Yet amid despair, threads of hope and resilience flickered. Francis ransomed himself, penning truths that preserved memory against oblivion. Notara's defiance, though fatal, inspired whispered tales of unbowed spirits. These cruelties, rooted in empire's dark underbelly, echo in modern shadows, where victors in conflicts parade the fallen, abusing power to silence dissent, erasing autonomies in public degradations that mirror ancient auctions. As the sun set on the 3rd day, Mehmed surveyed his prize from the Hagia Sophia's dome, now a mosque, the city's moans fading into uneasy silence. A lone noble woman, veiled in rags, clutched a hidden icon, her eyes fierce with unspoken vows. But the conqueror's ambition stirred anew, gazing east to Trebizond's distant shores, where more royals awaited fates entwined in betrayal's embrace. Waves crash against Trebizond's cliffs, a golden sunset bathing the imperial palace in deceptive peace. Emperor David Megas Komnenos kneels in surrender, his crown cast aside as Mehmed II, whose hand lingers on the trembling shoulder of David's young niece, her silk veil slipping to reveal curves that ignite the Sultan's gaze, promising a harem's shadowed intimacies amid the ruins of a dynasty. From the ashes of Constantinople's fall, where shock had gripped the soul like iron chains, Mehmed II's ambition stretched eastward, a serpent coiling toward Trebizond, the last flickering ember of Byzantium. In 1461, this Black Sea outpost, ruled by the Komnenos dynasty for over 2 centuries, stood defiant yet isolated, its walls a fragile barrier against the Ottoman tide. Emperor David Megas Komnenos, ascending in 1459 after his brother's suspicious death, navigated alliances with cunning, his court a web of intrigue where loyalties shifted like lovers' whispers. Married to Helena Cantacuzene and Maria of Gothia in succession, he fathered sons whose futures he guarded fiercely, their youthful forms symbols of continuity in a crumbling world. But Mehmed, flush with conquest thrill, mobilized an army of 80,000 and a fleet under Qasim Pasha, marching overland through hostile terrains, cannons rumbling like distant thunder. The siege began in earnest that summer, Ottoman forces encircling the city with relentless precision. Trebizond's defenders, bolstered by Georgian allies and the emperor's kin, held firm at first, arrows raining from battlements as supplies dwindled. David, in his opulent halls overlooking the sea, pondered surrender, promises of mercy from Mehmed's envoys teasing hope amid despair. Whispers in the court spoke of safe passage, of exile with dignity, luring the emperor into a fateful decision. On August 15, 1461, the gates opened. David knelt before the conqueror, his family arrayed behind him, sons with eyes wide in fear, women veiled yet exposed to appraising stares. Mehmed, his presence commanding, assured protection, a velvet glove over iron intent. Yet outrage brewed beneath the surface, indignation at this calculated deceit, where trust became a weapon in systemic oppression. Initial relocation followed, a march to Adrianople that stripped the royals of grandeur. David's clan, once draped in imperial purple, trudged under guard, bodies aching from the journey, spirits frayed by soldiers' leers. The Sultan's edicts, codified in the Kanuname legal codes under Mehmed II, formalized captive fates, distribution as spoils, integration to prevent revolt. Broader Ottoman practices loomed, royals as hostages, women absorbed into the harem's sensual hierarchies, where power flowed through forbidden desires and coerced alliances. David's wife and daughters vanished into this labyrinth, their forms claimed in rituals of submission, silk chambers echoing with unwilling sighs. Sons, potential threats, were held close, their education twisted into loyalty to the crescent banner. Deterioration accelerated in the shadows of exile. By 1463, accusations surfaced, a letter from David to Uzun Hassan of the Ak Koyun Lu, allegedly plotting rebellion. Whether forged or real, it sealed their doom. Mehmed, consolidating his empire, broke all promises, viewing the Komnenoi as relics of resistance. Relocated to a fortress near Saris, the family endured isolation, guards' eyes tracing forbidden contours in the dim light, power dynamics pulsing with erotic tension. Stakes soared beyond personal survival, dynastic obliteration threatened, cultural erasure loomed as Greek Orthodox rites were supplanted by forced conversions. Familial separations tore at the heart, sons ripped from mothers, siblings scattered like leaves in a gale. The executions came swift and merciless, a crescendo of betrayal. On March 26, 1463, in Adrianople, David and 6 sons faced the block, blades gleaming under torchlight. The eldest, Basil, barely a man, met the axe first, his blood staining the earth as father's cries rent the air. One by one, they fell, bodies convulsing in final defiance, heads rolling into baskets. A nephew joined them, his youthful frame a tragic echo of lost potential. Historian Franz Babinger, drawing from Venetian dispatches, details the horror, calculated killings to quash any Komnenos revival, cross-cultural records affirming the Sultan's ruthless efficiency. Niccolò Barbaro, chronicler of Constantinople's siege, evokes similar fates. Nobles paraded, humiliated, then slain, their ends a spectacle reinforcing subjugation. Outrage intensified, a firestorm of indignation at this dehumanization. David's motivations revealed in introspection, a desperate bid for alliance, rooted in hope for his people's survival, struggles against an inexorable foe. Yet resilience flickered. One son, George, converted and spared, a coerced triumph amid despair. Women in the harem navigated survival through guile, their bodies bargaining chips in power's dark dance, revelations of inner strength emerging in stolen moments of prayer. New elements heightened the stakes, whispers of broader campaigns, Mehmed's gaze turning to other holdouts, suspense building like storm clouds over the Bosphorus. The audience feels the universal pull, the betrayal of trust mirroring modern exploitations, where influential lineages face coerced mergers or public downfalls, vulnerabilities preyed upon in boardrooms or regimes. As the executioner's blade fell silent, a lone survivor, a daughter veiled in shadow, clutched a hidden cross, her eyes burning with unspoken vows. The empire's last breath echoed across the seas, but seeds of vengeance stirred, hinting at cycles unbroken, fates yet to unravel in the sultan's expanding shadow.